Hello and welcome to this new mock. In this video we are going to see different projects related to BIM. Also we are going to see both of them inside the environment of Autodesk Revit. So using the model that we have seen before, and we can remind just some important concepts, that is the definition of BIM. According to the first video, we have seen that BIM is a 3D representation, is a database, and also is a collaborative process or a collaborative methodology. 3D representation because, of course, I can provide to the user 3D representation of different elements, but I am not only being able to provide only 3D, I can also provide 2D representation in a very fastest way comparing to the other methodologies or traditional methodologies. Also as a database because, as we have seen in previous video, I can check or I can click in, for instance, one element, remind the second video related to the hierarchy, the stair. The element that I can click is the element, the lower part of the hierarchy in elements in Revit, and here into the left part I have all the properties, so I can handle parameters to different elements. And of course it's a collaborative process because, as we can see here, we can provide this working environment in this BIM environment to different entities. I can provide accessibility to architecture, to structure, technical profiles. I can provide to plumbing, electricity, head systems, so every single stakeholder or modeler or engineer can access to the model. But what happened? BIM at the beginning was designed for the architectural things, for buildings. As you can see, it's quite important, and it's quite easy to find in this top part different disciplines or different categories related to buildings. So I can find architecture, I have doors, I have windows, I have columns, roof, ceiling. I can find in structure beams, I can find walls, column, floor, and so on, different connection, different foundations. But what happened with civil engineering or other categories, other entities, other construction processes that are not quite related to categories or to elements related to buildings? Well, related to building, Revit is quite flexible. As you can see, I can handle different visualizations. As you can see, I can divide different views, I can make different renders, and I can make different plans, as we can see here. It's quite interesting being for achieving this great level of detail. As you can see, you can make section through every single level. You can select what you want to find or what you want to see in every single view. As you can see, we can provide more importance to annotation, to distance. So I can not only provide 3D, I can provide also 2D, and also I can make different renderizations, as you can see here. So this is why important, this is why Revit is so useful, because you can model, you can also make different structural calculations, and it's a very good tool in order to provide a good plans. As you can see, you can make like real visualizations, you can make internal videos, you can make different details of windows, floors, you can play with the transparency, and every single element that you can find inside this video or inside this model, every single tool that you have here inside the program will be able or will provide to you an easier way to work with different visualization levels and to work with different visualization plans. As you can see, it is quite powerful, not only for structural elements or architectural elements, also for more specific elements. Okay, as we have seen before, you can create your own families as this one, and you can handle the visualization and the parameters that you have that you want to assign. So that is why it's so important, because as we have seen before, it's a 3D plus a database. So this kind of information of tables linked with, for instance, with 3D views is quite important to reach good plans or good visualization plans. So, well, this is a building project, but what happens if I want to apply it or to apply BIM in another project that is not a building, that is, for instance, a pedestrian bridge? Let's see in the following model. Let's focus now in another type of project, one related to the civil engineering, a pedestrian bridge. Is possible to build a pedestrian bridge or an infrastructure related to civil engineering in Autodesk Revit? Of course, yes. But you have to handle different categories or different elements that probably do not define quite good the element related to the civil engineering. For instance, we have here a BIM model related to a pedestrian bridge. As you can see, you have all the possibilities that Revit can allow to you when you are modeling a building. You have all the functionalities, and you will not have any problem to render, to build arc, to build stage, to build decks, and so on. And you can make renders, you can handle all the visualization in 3D, you can define, for instance, constructive processes. As you can see, you can detail it from different phases, and you have many possibilities. You can make specific detailed views and so on. So the properties or the capacities of BIM are quite interesting. But what is the main problem? Which is not a big problem, but you have to handle this because it's quite important. If you remember before, in the building, we have here different disciplines related to building. So I have architecture, walls, windows, doors, but I don't have, for instance, arcs. I don't have, for instance, stays. I don't have different building or different bridge ribs. I don't have this kind of pillars. This is a quite a special pillar. It's not an architectural pillar that we can find in buildings. So as you can see, there are categories that they don't exist into the Revit categories by default. So that it means that I cannot model this. Of course not. As you can see, we have already modeled this in this environment. But for instance, let's imagine this should be a category related to arcs, or basic arc, or composed arc, or whatever, but it should be an arc. And as you can see, if I go through the properties, I have seen that this arc is a roof. Why a roof? Because probably this category fits very well with the properties that a roof is saving into the database of the BIM comparing to an arc. But of course it's not a roof. So we have to handle this in a very slow way, and we have to know very well what we are doing. Because this is an arc and it's not a roof. But here we have modeled it as a roof. So what is important? Of course, and probably you have already know, when we are working with a Revit file, normally when we are working in a private sector or a private project, or we are working in a public tender, normally the thing or the schema or the format that they are asking for us is the IFC. Why IFC, Industrial Foundation Classes? Because this is the most common standard, and this is a standard that is going or is trying to host every single element related to every single sector, not only building, also civil engineering. For instance, let's see, you can go to internet, and here in Building Smart, that is the entity that is developing this IFC schema, I can go to see the different elements, and I can see, for instance, that they are detailing different IFC elements. I will make some zoom here. We can see that I have entities related to rail, I have entities related to ramps, so I have entities related not only to building. So if I click in rail, I will see that there are a lot of links between different elements of the model, and inside of rail, for instance, I can have different entities, different parameters, or different, let's try to see or let's try to define them like family or types, that they are inside of this category, and this family and types I don't have in a Revit environment. So it's quite important to know that when we are exporting from Revit or from another software that is not working in IFC directly, because Revit is working in his own format, we are exporting to IFC, so we have to handle very clear. For instance, if I have model a rail, I have to know that probably in Revit this is a floor. So when I export to IFC, I have to handle very clear, and I have to do the process very well to export to an IFC railway instead of an IFC floor. So be careful with this when you are modeling or when you are handling a Revit environment, because not all the entities or not all the categories are the same respecting to the IFC environment. So there are now into the marketplace many inputs or many add-ons that helps to you to export from Revit to the IFC in the correct way. So that's all for this video. Hope that will be interesting for you. Thanks for your attention. This video and this mock is part of the project Digital Twins Infrastructure and Cities. You can find more information through this link and through this QR. Thank you very much for your time.